Every November, across towns, fields, city parks, and back gardens, the sky of Britain erupts into sparks of gold and thunderous bursts of color. Children gather around towering bonfires. The smoky scent of autumn hangs in the air. People laugh, cheer, and hold cups of hot chocolate as fireworks whistle upward and explode overhead. It feels festive, warm, familiar. But the celebration known as Bonfire Night, Guy Fawkes Night, was born from a moment of fear, treason, desperation, and political chaos that nearly changed the course of British history forever. Before we dive deep into this astonishing story, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel, because today we're uncovering the hidden truth behind one of Britain's oldest and most misunderstood traditions. The powder keg before the plot. I'll understand why a group of Englishmen chose to risk everything, status, safety, and even their own lives. We must step back into the tense and unsettled world of early 17th century England. The nation was still reeling from the aftershocks of the Protestant Reformation, a religious earthquake that had split communities, reshaped politics, and turned faith into a battleground. For English Catholics, life had become a quiet, grinding struggle. Catholicism was outlawed outright. The celebration of Catholic Mass was banned. Priests were forced into hiding, and families loyal to the old faith practiced their rituals behind shuttered windows and locked doors. Those who refused to attend Protestant services were hit with heavy recusation fines. Penalties so steep they ruined families financially and drove many into poverty. Catholics were shut out of public office, stripped of influence, and often prevented from inheriting land or property. A Catholic upbringing meant a future marked by suspicion, limitation, and danger. Houses were searched, neighbors were encouraged to inform, and suspicion became an everyday companion. Under these pressures, practicing one's faith felt like carrying a lit candle through a storm. Fragile, precious, and constantly threatened. So when King James VI of Scotland inherited the English throne in 1603, becoming James I of England, hope flickered again. His mother, Mary, Queen of Scots, had been a Catholic icon. James himself had hinted, carefully, cautiously, that he might ease the burden on Catholic subjects. After decades of hostility under Elizabeth I, many Catholics dared to believe that salvation, at long last, had arrived. But the optimism did not survive long. Parliament, deeply Protestant and deeply wary of Catholic influence, pushed the new king to demonstrate loyalty to the established Church of England. James, eager to solidify his authority and avoid political unrest, bowed to that pressure. In 1604, he issued orders cracking down even harder on Catholics. Raids on suspected Catholic homes increased. Secret priests were hunted with renewed energy. Fines grew steeper. The brief dream of tolerance collapsed into despair. This suffocating environment created a pressure cooker of frustration, fear, and resentment. And within that pressure, one man's convictions hardened into something dangerous. Robert Catesby, a charismatic and passionate English Catholic from a respected Midlands family, watched the situation worsen and concluded that peaceful appeals had failed. Every petition had been ignored. Every promise of leniency had been broken. In his eyes, England had no place for Catholics, not under its current rulers and not under its current system. Believing the monarchy itself needed to be reshaped, Catesby began to imagine a radical solution. If the government refused to listen, perhaps it could be forced to. If the system itself was corrupt, perhaps it could be blown apart, literally. And so, in a moment of desperation and conviction, a plan began to take shape. A plan so bold and so explosive that its shadow still stretches across history. Catesby envisioned destroying Parliament in one single, devastating burst, a blast powerful enough to erase the king, his ministers, and the entire leadership of Protestant England. It would become known as the Gunpowder Plot, the conspirators in shadow. Catesby was not alone for long. As his vision of a revolutionary strike against England's Protestant rule began to take shape, Trusted allies slowly stepped out of the shadows to stand beside him. Thomas Wintour, known for his intelligence and steady resolve, was the first to join. Soon after came Thomas Percy, a bold and influential figure within the noble Percy family. Then John Wright followed, a man whose unwavering loyalty had already proven indispensable. One by one, the circle expanded until 13 conspirators were bound together by secrecy, desperation, and the dangerous hope of restoring Catholic power in England. Yet among these 13 men, one would rise to become the symbol of the entire conspiracy. A seasoned soldier hardened by years of war. A man who had fought bravely for Catholic Spain and the Netherlands. Someone deeply familiar with the destructive potential of gunpowder and fiercely committed to the cause. Quiet in demeanor, but fiery in conviction. His name, Guy Fawkes, would echo through history long after the plot itself crumbled. To begin the mission, Fawkes slipped back into England under an assumed identity, John Johnson, a seemingly ordinary servant in the employ of Thomas Percy. The disguise allowed him to move unnoticed, an invisible guardian over the most volatile element of the conspiracy. Meanwhile, beneath the very heart of English governance, the conspirators achieved their most critical breakthrough. They managed to secure access to a cellar directly underneath the House of Lords, a location so unremarkable, so perfectly mundane, that it became the ideal hiding place. The perfect blind spot for treason on a national scale. Over the course of several painstaking months, they transported cartloads of firewood into this cellar. The world saw only mundane storage, but hidden beneath the piles of timber lay their true weapon, 36 barrels of gunpowder. Enough explosive power to obliterate the Parliament building, level stone walls, and annihilate the entire political leadership of England in a single detonation. King James I, his son, Prince Henry, the lords, the bishops, the most influential decision-makers in the country, all gone in an instant. The conspirators scheduled the explosion for November 5th, 1605, the day of the state opening of Parliament. On that morning, England's ruling elite would gather in one chamber, unaware that the ground beneath their feet had become a death trap. Their goal was not merely destruction, it was transformation. With the Protestant government erased, the conspirators planned to ignite a national uprising and install a Catholic monarch on the throne. Some even envisioned placing King James's young daughter, Princess Elizabeth, at the head of a newly restored Catholic regime, an act they believed would reshape the destiny of the nation. If you're enjoying this deep dive and want more long-form history videos like this, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. It truly helps the channel grow and allows us to bring you more detailed stories from the past. The letter that undid everything. But history, as it often does, turned sharply away from the conspirators' ambitions. Just days before the planned explosion, tensions within the group began to crack. One of the plotters grew increasingly distressed. Most historians point to Francis Tresham, whose own brother-in-law, Lord Monteagle, was expected to attend Parliament on the morning of November 5th. Whether out of guilt, fear of mass bloodshed, or a desire to protect his family, someone decided to intervene. On October 26th, Lord Monteagle received an anonymous letter at his residence. It warned him, in vague but chilling words, to avoid the state opening of Parliament because they shall receive a terrible blow. The message was cryptic, but the threat was unmistakable. Shocked and unsure what to make of it, Monteagle immediately carried the letter to authorities. What followed was a rapid chain reaction. King James I, already suspicious of Catholic uprisings, studied the warning carefully. He noted the ominous phrase, "terrible blow," which reminded him of gunpowder plots from European history. With unease mounting, he ordered a full search of Parliament's undercrofts. Every room, every corner, every hidden space beneath the building. In the earliest hours of November 5th, as torches flickered through dark passageways, guards reached the cellar rented by Thomas Percy. There, standing calmly among stacked wood and hidden barrels, they found a man who introduced himself as John Johnson. But the tools he carried, matches, Lanterns and slow-burning fuses betrayed him. Moments later, guards uncovered the concealed gunpowder. England had come inches from catastrophe. John Johnson was seized immediately. Only after questioning did authorities discover his true identity. Guy Fawkes, the man tasked with igniting the explosion that would have rewritten English history. By sunrise, word spread across London like wildfire. Crowds filled the streets in disbelief, grateful terror, and outrage. The city realized just how narrowly it had escaped the obliteration of its king, his heirs, and the entire ruling class. Fawkes was transferred to the Tower of London, where interrogation began almost at once. King James personally authorized the use of torture, a legal rarity reserved only for threats against the monarchy. At first, Fawkes showed remarkable resilience. His early signatures appeared strong, almost boldly defiant, revealing nothing. But the rack was an unforgiving device, stretching limbs and crushing willpower. After days of brutal torment, broken physically and spiritually, Fawkes finally confessed. He named his fellow conspirators, described the cellar, explained the gunpowder, and recounted months of secret planning. Soldiers were dispatched immediately. What followed was a violent sweep across the countryside. Some conspirators, including Robert Catesby, were cornered and killed in fierce gunfights. Others were captured alive, dragged back to London, and put on trial. Their sentences were harsh and public, to be hanged, drawn, and quartered, a medieval execution designed to terrorize anyone who dared challenge the crown. The birth of a public celebration. England erupted in a wave of overwhelming relief. Church bells rang across cities and villages, echoing through the night as the news spread. Crowds poured into the streets, celebrating the king's survival and the narrow escape from unimaginable destruction. Bonfires, hastily built from whatever wood people could gather, crackled to life throughout the country. These flames weren't planned or coordinated. They were instinctive, emotional reactions from a nation stunned by how close it had come to catastrophe. In the aftermath, Parliament sought to cement this moment of deliverance in a national memory. In 1606, lawmakers passed the Thanksgiving Act, legally requiring the people of England to commemorate November 5th every year. Churches were instructed to hold special services of gratitude, and communities were encouraged to light bonfires in honor of the king's preservation. For over 2 centuries, this annual ritual remained written into law, an official reminder of loyalty to the crown and rejection of Catholic rebellion. But it's important to understand that the earliest versions of this celebration looked nothing like the cheerful, family-friendly Bonfire Night we know today. These were fiercely political events, raw, emotional, and often hostile. Effigies of the Pope were dragged through the streets and set ablaze. Crowds chanted aggressively against popery, and tensions sometimes erupted into riots. For many, November 5th became a symbolic battlefield, reinforcing Protestant dominance and deepening the divide between communities. It was a holiday born from fear, triumph, and conflict, not unity. Yet as decades passed, England changed, and so did the meaning of the celebration. By the late 1700s, the burning of papal effigies began to fade. In their place rose a new figure, Guy Fawkes. His name had already become synonymous with treason, danger, and defiance, and now his likeness became the central symbol of the night. Children crafted life-size guys from old clothes stuffed with straw, parading them through streets and asking passers-by for a penny for the guy. These figures were later thrown onto bonfires, turning Fawkes into both villain and folk icon. This shift in symbolism marked the beginning of the holiday's transformation. By the middle of the 19th century, Bonfire Night was evolving from a divisive, sectarian ritual into something much more communal. Fireworks, once rare and expensive, began to spread across towns. Local parades grew larger, families gathered around bonfires, and the night gradually shifted towards celebration rather than condemnation. The intensity of earlier centuries softened into festivity. By the time the Thanksgiving Act was finally repealed in 1859, the holiday no longer needed legal enforcement. Bonfire Night had already embedded itself into the cultural fabric of Britain. It had become a tradition that communities chose to uphold, not out of obligation to Parliament, but because it had grown into a cherished part of the national identity. And if you're still here, still enjoying this deep dive into one of history's most dramatic moments, take a second to like and subscribe. You already know how it goes. Every YouTuber has to remind you. The rise of bonfires, fireworks, and folklore. England erupted in relief. Church bells echoed across towns and cities as word spread that the king and the entire government had narrowly escaped destruction. People spilled into the streets, shaken but grateful, building spontaneous bonfires from whatever wood they could find. These flames weren't organized celebrations. They were instinctive, emotional reactions from a nation stunned by the catastrophe it had avoided by mere hours. In the months that followed, Parliament moved quickly to cement this moment into national memory. In 1606, lawmakers passed the Thanksgiving Act, legally requiring an annual commemoration on November 5th. Churches held services of gratitude, and communities lit bonfires in honor of the king's survival. For more than 200 years, this tradition was enforced by law. But the early celebrations looked nothing like today's friendly fireworks displays. They were fiercely political, loud, angry, and unapologetically anti-Catholic. Effigies of the Pope were burned in public squares. Crowds shouted anti-popery slogans, and clashes sometimes erupted. November 5th wasn't about unity. It was about asserting Protestant dominance during a time of deep religious tension. Over time, however, the meaning of the holiday shifted. By the late 1700s, Guy Fawkes himself began to replace the Pope as the central figure. Children made straw-stuffed guys, dragging them through the streets and asking for a penny for the guy before tossing them onto bonfires. Fawkes transformed from a feared conspirator into a symbolic villain, and eventually into a cultural icon. By the mid-1800s, Bonfire Night had softened into a community celebration. Fireworks spread across towns, parades grew bigger, and the holiday slowly turned festive rather than hostile. When the Thanksgiving Act was finally repealed in 1859, Bonfire Night continued anyway, no longer mandated but beloved. And if you're still watching and enjoying this documentary-style deep dive, take a moment to like and subscribe. It really does help the channel grow. Modern Bonfire Night, from treason to festival. Today, Bonfire Night has transformed into a largely secular, family-friendly celebration, far removed from the religious tension and political hostility that defined its origins. The fear of Catholic conspiracies is long gone, replaced by a sense of community, warmth, and tradition. Across Britain, families bundle into coats, scarves, and gloves as they head to open fields, parks, and village greens. Children wave sparklers through the cold air. Food stalls fill the night with the smell of toffee apples and hot chocolate. And music plays as the bonfire crackles and fireworks paint the sky. What was once a day of division has become an evening of shared joy. Yet even now, the echoes of the past linger in subtle but meaningful ways. Every year, shortly before the modern state opening of Parliament, the Yeomen of the Guard, the King's traditional bodyguards, conduct a ceremonial search of the cellars beneath Westminster. It's largely symbolic and even slightly theatrical, but it serves as a living reminder of how close England once came to tragedy. Though no one expects to find barrels of gunpowder today, the ritual keeps the memory of the Gunpowder Plot alive within the heart of the nation's government. Across the country, several towns have maintained especially strong and distinctive Bonfire Night traditions. Lewes in Sussex stand at the forefront, famous for hosting the largest and most elaborate celebrations. Massive processions wind through the streets, accompanied by bands, torchbearers, and dramatic effigies, not only of Guy Fawkes, but of contemporary political figures, international leaders, and occasionally even celebrities. The night becomes a blend of history, satire, and spectacle. In contrast, the city of York takes a more reflective approach. St. Peter's School, where Guy Fawkes was once a pupil, has a unique tradition. They refuse to burn his effigy. Their stance is simple: They will not symbolically burn one of their own former students, regardless of how many centuries have passed. It's a small but poignant gesture, adding another layer of complexity to how modern Britain remembers the past. And as we approach yet another milestone in this deep dive, you know exactly what time it is. If you're enjoying the video and want more long-form history documentaries like this, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. It truly helps support the work that goes into creating these detailed explorations of the past. The psychology behind remembering and burning. There is something deeply ancient, almost primal, in the human impulse to gather around fire, to burn figures that represent danger, and to retell stories of disasters narrowly avoided. Long before the Gunpowder Plot, communities across the world used bonfires and effigies to transform fear into ritual, to make sense of threats they had survived. In many ways, the story of 1605 fits seamlessly into this timeless tradition. Though the Gunpowder Plot was a political conspiracy rooted in the religious tensions of its age, it carries mythic qualities that transcend its historical moment. It contains all the elements found in age-old legends. A group rising against what they believe to be oppression, secret meetings filled with whispered plans, loyalties tested, and betrayal from within. And at its climax, the classic motif, a last-minute discovery that prevents disaster, preserves the fragile line between catastrophe and survival. These are themes humans have passed down for centuries because they strike at something universal in the human experience. In this context, fire becomes more than a festive attraction. It becomes a symbol layered with meaning. Fire is destruction, reflecting the explosive violence the conspirators intended. But it is also purification, a way to symbolically burn away the threat, the fear, and the memory of what might have been. When communities toss a guy onto the flames, even today, they are unknowingly participating in a ritual far older than the plot itself, turning anxiety into spectacle and remembrance. Fireworks play their part in this ritual as well. Their sudden bursts of light and thunderous cracks echo the power of the gunpowder that was meant to tear through Parliament. They dramatize the violence that never occurred, transforming potential tragedy into controlled celebration. Bonfire Night endures, in part, because it satisfies these ancient human instincts to remember, to imagine, and to symbolically confront danger with fire and light. Bonfire Night in a changing world. In the 21st century, Bonfire Night faces a new set of challenges, ones that its earliest celebrants could never have imagined. The environmental impact of fireworks and bonfires has sparked widespread debate. Smoke, soot, and particulate matter fill the air during large displays, raising concerns about pollution and public health. Wildlife is disturbed, birds and other creatures frightened by sudden bursts of light and sound, and pets often experience stress and anxiety from the explosions. Communities, governments, and environmental organizations have begun weighing these risks against the cultural value of the tradition, prompting new conversations about how to celebrate responsibly. 400 years have passed since Guy Fawkes was discovered lurking in the dark cellar beneath the House of Lords, and yet his story continues to captivate the imagination of Britain. The night that once marked fear, treason, and political upheaval has evolved into something entirely different. A celebration that blends history, memory, and community. Bonfire Night is no longer about hatred or religious division. It has become a night of warmth, light, and shared experience, where families gather around roaring fires, children wave sparklers, and communities come together under skies alight with color and sound. The story of Guy Fawkes serves as a living reminder of the narrow line between disaster and survival, and the bonfires that blaze across towns and villages symbolize both remembrance and renewal. Each spark, each crack of firework, carries echoes of the past, of plots foiled, loyalties tested, and history narrowly averted. Yet it also celebrates the resilience of tradition, showing how a nation can transform fear into festivity, danger into ritual, and political strife into a communal experience that unites rather than divides. As you watch the flames dance and the fireworks illuminate the night, you are participating in a ritual that connects the past with the present, a story that has endured for centuries. Thank you for joining us on this in-depth journey through history. If you enjoyed this documentary, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Your support ensures these long-form historical explorations continue, bringing more stories to life and keeping the past vividly alive for future audiences.